What's up guys, Justin here with TheSketchUpEssentials.com, back with another SketchUp and layout modeling tutorial for you. So in today's video we're going to add our cabinets and our doors and frames to our model. And then in the next video we'll start moving forward into actually taking this into layout and creating some plans. But if you're looking for more information on modeling for architecture and for layout, make sure you check out my SketchUp Essentials for Architecture course, which I will link to in the notes down below. That gets really in depth on how exactly to model for layout, tons of different tips and tricks in order to make that process work for you. So if you've been struggling with that process, make sure to check out that course. I think you'll find it really helpful. But for now, let's go ahead and just jump into it. All right, so what I want to do is I want to go through, we've got our interior partitions created now. So we've got our walls on level 1 and level 2 created. I want to go through it and I want to start adding the doors and frames, as well as the cabinets that are going to go in the kitchen area. We might drop a couple appliances in here as well. But just note that as we're doing this, the big thing to focus on is going to be organization. So being able to turn all of these things on and off is going to be really important, especially as we move into layout and we start trying to do different line weights and other things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off and let's go ahead and let's add a frame to this door right here. And so the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to come into my level 1 group. So I want to make sure I'm in my level 1 group so that these actually get created in level 1. But I'm just going to go through it and I'm just going to model out a frame. So I'm just going to take this space and I'm just going to model out a frame by using the offset tool. I'm going to offset this in by about 2 inches. So your frames may be a little bit different than that, but this should get you close. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to move this piece down to the floor, just like this, and I'm going to delete this out for just a moment. And so what I want to do is I want to push-pull this frame back just like this. One thing to note about this is occasionally when you're push-pulling something, and it doesn't seem to be doing it here, maybe if I reverse this face, but occasionally if you push-pull this, this will create kind of a hollow face in here. If this is hollow and you don't get a face right here, just tap the Control key when you do this. So just tap the Control key and what that'll do is that'll put you in create new face mode, and so that'll make sure that you have a face inside of this shape if this comes out hollow, which it doesn't appear to be doing. But for now I'm just going to push pull this back to the back side of my wall. I'm going to reverse this face and I'm just going to triple click on this in order to create my door. And I'm going to go ahead and erase out this edge before I do that, but we'll just triple click and we'll just right click and we'll make that a group. And so now let's take a look at what we've done. What we've done is we've created a group over here that's going to contain our frame, our door leaf, and our 2D door swing. And so that's important because you want your 2D door swings to show up in here when you're modeling for layout so you can see which direction the door is going to go. So what I want to do is within this group, I'm just going to double click in order to work inside of it. And actually what I'm going to do first is I'm going to rename this door. And so I'm going to name this door whatever I want the door number to be. So in this case, we're just going to call this door 1. And if you wanted to, you could also type in the size. So inside of the name, that could be helpful when we schedule this out. So for example, this door should be 3 foot wide, 7 foot high. So we would just do door 1, 3 foot 0 inches by 7 foot 0 inches high, and hit the enter key. And so what we have now is we have a group for our door. Well, I want to go inside of that group and I want to start grouping everything that's in it. So for now, all I have is my frame. So I'm just going to triple click on my frame. I'm going to make that a group. I'm just going to name this frame. Right? So now we're inside of this group and we're modeling this, and we can go ahead and we can model out our door geometry. And so we'll have a frame group, a door group, and then a swing group, which I'll talk about in a second. But for right now, I'm just going to take this door and I'm just going to draw a rectangle from here to here, whoops, using the rectangle tool. And then I will push pull this. You can push pull it till it's flush, or if your door only goes halfway through your frame, right, then you can push pull it so it's just halfway. So you could push pull it like this so you get a little bit of recess. And so what I did is I just push pulled this until it's halfway through the wall. And so that way, when we eventually take our section cut in order to look at our door, and we look at it straight up and down, like this, you'll be able to see where the door's sitting inside of your frame. So I modeled this to an actual thickness. I'm going to delete that section plane out. But now all I'm going to do is I'm going to triple click on that door. To make sure I've picked up all that geometry, I'm going to make that a group. And I'll just call this leaf, or you could call it door leaf, whatever you want. And so now what we have is we have our door in here that's going to show up in this opening. But the one thing about this, though, is if we were to take a section cut along this whole thing, right, and look at it straight up and down, we currently don't really know just by looking at it which direction the door is going to swing, right? So we need to create a visual indicator of our door swing inside of our model so that we can see where that is when we take this into layout. And so one thing to note about that is we need to create another layer for this that we can turn on and off, because like if we're rendering or something like that, we don't want that leaf to show up. So I'll just delete that section cut out, and I'm just going to double click inside of this group to get back into that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to model out my door swing. So my door swing is going to be the length of my door, which is 2 foot 8 inches, so 2 foot 8 inches. So I'm just going to draw a line here. I'll draw a line here that's going to be the thickness of my door, so whatever that's going to be. We'll just call it 1 inch for right now. I'm just going to draw a rectangle across here. Then I'm going to draw an arc from this point to this point. And I'm just going to draw this out, and this is going to be our swing indicator, right? So now this is sitting here on our flat face. Well, now if we look at things straight up and down, you can see how we get this swing indicator that we can show inside of layout. So we can use this in order to show what direction our doors are going to swing. And so what I want to do is I just want to take that whole thing, I just want to triple click on it to select it, and I want to make that a group as well. And so in this case, that is going to be the swing. Right? So I've got my frame, my leaf, and my swing. So what I want to do is I want to create a layer. It's going to be a conceptual layer because it's something that doesn't exist in the real world. It's something that we more use to indicate something. But I'm going to create a layer. So conc underscore swings. And so every time I create a door, I'm going to put that swing on the swings layer. And so what that means is now I can turn the swings on and off inside of my 3D view. So we have this in here to indicate where it's going to go, but we also have it where we can turn it off in case we're taking 3D images or something like that. And so then our door is going to go on the ARCH doors layer. So ARCH doors right here. And honestly, we're going to be grouping all of our doors together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of my doors in a group. And I already have a doors group, so I'm just going to drag this into my doors group right here. And then that doors group goes on the ARCH doors layer. So then I can turn that on and off. And so the reason that's important is because if you ever want to apply a different line weight or something like that to your images, you want to have the ability to just get your walls without your doors. You want to be able to just get your doors without your walls. You want to be able to flip all of this stuff on and off with a simple click. And so I'm going to go ahead and let's go up to level 2. So we haven't done a whole lot with level 2 being shown in this series. So what we want to do is let's go up to our level 2 working view. So that's our view that shows level 2. Well, we're going to do the exact same thing on level 2, right? So we're going to double click in here. We'll make sure we're inside of our level 2 group, and then we'll just model out our frame. So draw a rectangle, offset this in 2 inches, or whatever the thickness of your door frame is going to be. Erase out this extra. We'll push-pull this back so it's level with the back side of the wall. So I'm just going to triple click to select the whole thing, and I'm going to make it a group, making sure that it's showing up in my level 2 layer. I'm just going to label this door. We'll call it 201, actually. I may go back and rename the one downstairs. And we're just going to say it's 3 foot 0 inches by 7 foot 0 inches. Hit the enter key. Then I'll double click inside of that. I'll triple click my frame in order to make a frame, and I'll just label this frame. I'll draw my door leaf. Then we'll push pull it to half of this wall thickness. Then I'll just triple click on that. I'll make that a group, and we'll call this leaf. Then we'll add our swing. We'll triple click on our swing. We'll make that a group. And we'll call this swing. And we'll put that on our swings layer. And so I'm going to speed this up a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and model out another door. You know, and another thing you could do here if you wanted to is you could make these components because they're the same size. So you could make this a component and then rename the instance with the door number as well. Let's say that instead of doing this, instead of modeling this out, let's say we were to take this door because it's the same size, and we could use the move tool in copy mode in order to create a copy. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate that 180 degrees. We need to make it a component first. So let's say I was to take this door, right click on it, and make it a component. And what we would do is we would name the component door 3 foot by 7 foot. And then each one of these instances could have its own name. And so the way that you can add an instance name is up above, you could name this door 201. So notice how when I did that, that particular instance gets named with the door number. So now we could model these out as components that have the size associated with them, but each individual instance could have the door name in it. But now I can use the move tool in copy mode in order to move this. I want my swing to go the other way, so I'm just going to use the scale tool in order to flip that. And then I'm just going to move this so that it's aligned with this wall. Well, notice how for this one, what we want to do is we want to click on it. We want to name this instance door 202 and hit the tab key. So notice how now I have a door in here for door 201. I have a door in here for door 202. They're both copies of the same component, but they each have their own name, which is the instance name. So that can be your actual door number that would show up in a schedule. But I'm just going to do that one more time. For this one, I would call it door 203. Just like this. And then I would take all three of these and I would select them. So I'm just going to do a control click to select these, and I'm going to right click. I'm going to make these a group. And we're just going to call this doors. I'll put the doors on the doors layer. So notice how they're in the level 2 group. So if I turn level 2 off, and I've been saying layers this whole time, but tags is really what these are. They changed the name of that in the newest version. But notice how because they're in the level 2 group, which is on the level 2 tag or the level 2 layer, now when I turn that off, those turn on and off. I can also turn my doors on and off, though I probably need to select something else before I do that. So we'll just make this my current layer. I want to make sure to put those on the doors tag. So now you can turn those on and off. You can also turn the swings on and off by toggling this conceptual swings layer. So that should give you a pretty good idea of how to create your doors in this model. Real quick, let's go through and let's start modeling out our cabinets. So the cabinets are going to work the same way, and honestly I like to use cabinets from the 3D warehouse as much as possible. So say you did want to model your cabinets out though, the way that you could do that is you could just take your cabinet and just model out your depth. So 24 inches. We'll say it's going to be 36 inches wide. And we'll say 34.5 inches high. So you could model this out to whatever level of detail you want. So you could come in here and model out individual doors and everything else. So you could offset this in a little bit. Push-pull your doors, create your detail. You can do that however you want, and then you would take this whole thing and you would just make it a group. And then for each cabinet, you would make it a group, and you'd want to make sure that that's inside of your level 1 group down here. But you would create a layer or a tag labeled ARCH underscore cabinets. And you would just take your cabinets group and you would put it right here. And then it'd be set up the same way as everything else, right? You'd have a group labeled cabinets, and then each individual group would be in here. You can definitely do that. I prefer, whenever possible, using 3D warehouse models in order to do this though. So what I like to do is I like to go into the 3D warehouse, and there's a ton of different cabinet manufacturers that are in here. So I know like Craftmade has most of their collections contained inside of the 3D warehouse. And so one thing you're going to want to do though when you do this search is you don't want to search for models, because when you search for models you can get a whole bunch of models from like really from anybody, and you don't know if they've modeled them to the correct dimensions or anything like that. But if you were to click over here in the catalogs section and then search for CraftMade, you can see how you can find model catalogs from different manufacturers. And so in this case, for example, let's say we wanted to use these Montclair cabinets. So these are available at Lowe's. These have actually been put in here by the manufacturer, and so you know that they're to the correct dimensions. Well, you can come in here and you can find these, and you can find this whole collection of cabinets in here, and you can bring these in. So for example, let's say I wanted a base cabinet. I could just find this base cabinet, load it into my model. So then all I have to do is rotate these and put them in place. So I can move this so that it goes back against the wall like this. One thing to note about this is you can get a whole lot of like junk inside of these depending on how they're set up. So you may want to come back in here and not necessarily explode them, but you probably at least want to label them. So for this one, maybe like corner cabinet or something like that. So I could label this in that way. And then I'm just going to take this and I'm going to drag that into my level 1 group. So it's contained on level 1. And you can use this in order to build out your whole set of cabinets. So if we go back in here again, we could bring this in, though I don't know why this is 45 megabytes. That's a really big file. So if you ever see anything that comes in that big, you need to be a little bit careful with that. There's really no reason a cabinet like that should be 45 megabytes. So something must be wrong in here, or it's got a whole bunch of dynamic stuff in it or something like that. Let's try maybe bringing in this cabinet, which is much smaller. So I'm going to download this in. Whoops. We'll use the move tool to rotate it, and then I'm just going to move this over so that it's aligned with this other cabinet. So make sure you're bringing these in and they're actually on the floor, but you can use this to add cabinets to your model really quickly instead of having to spend a whole lot of extra time modeling these out yourself. So if you can find something you like online, I'd recommend that. It's just going to be a little bit faster. And so I'm going to go ahead and drag these into my level 1. I should have been in level 1 when I was doing this, but the cool thing about the outliner is you don't necessarily, you can fix any mistakes like that of things being in the wrong group really quickly. But I'm just going to take all of these, I'm going to select them, and I'm going to put them in a group labeled cabinets. And then we'll take those and we'll tag them ARCH_cabinets. So now you have your cabinets in here and you can turn them on and off. And then you can come into this group and you can make changes or edits or add different things as much as you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this 90 degrees. I'll place that in here. I know I've got a little bit of overlap in here, but so you might end up modifying this wall or something like that to get all of this to fit. But at least for right now, for the sake of what we're doing here, I'm going to go ahead and call that good. So I'm just going to take that, drag it into my cabinets group again. And so that's how I would add the cabinets in here. And then one other thing is if I was to add like appliances or fixtures, I would just do that in the same way. So, or first of all, let's model out our countertop. So let's say the countertop is going to get modeled in here differently. And so all we're going to do in this case is I'm just going to draw out the profile of my countertop. I'm going to go ahead and model this inside of my level 1 this time, so I don't have to create something and then move it in here. But I'm just going to, making sure that I'm on my wall, I'm going to model this out 25 and a half. And so all I'm really doing is I'm just roughing out the profile of my countertop. And then once you have this kind of roughed out a little bit, you can go ahead and you can turn off those cabinets. That's one of the great things about putting those on a layer, is now I can just come in here and I can just model this out without having my cabinet get in the way. And so in this situation, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm just going to make a copy of it. I'm going to flip it using the scale tool. And then I'm just going to move this so it's aligned with my corner, and then I'll just go ahead and close this the rest of the way in. And then, once we've done this, you can just extrude this up by the thickness of your counter. And then we'll just pull this up 1.25 inches. Then we can take this, and we can turn our cabinets back on just to see what this looks like, but we can triple click on this and we can make it a group, and we can just call this counters. And then we can create a layer for your counters. So that way you can turn your counters on and off separate, or a tag for your counters that you can turn on and off separate from your countertops. So, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to organize everything the same way. So I'm going to create a group for my appliances when I add those in here. So we're going to have that appliances group, and we're also going to have one in here for things like plumbing fixtures. And all you're going to do is just create a layer, so arch_fixtures, arch_appliances, and then group them in this same way. So the whole thing that we're going for here is staying organized and creating our model in a way that we can really maintain that modularity and turn things on and off when we want to. So that should give you a pretty good idea of how we're going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video because it's getting a little bit long. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to create plans inside of Layout from these 3D models that we've created. So in the meantime, if you have any questions about anything we've done so far, leave a comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, remember to click that subscribe button for new SketchUp content every week. Remember, if you're looking for more in-depth training on modeling for layout, make sure to check out my SketchUp Essentials for Architecture course, which I will link to in the notes down below. But as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.